welcome. And today, you know why you're here. I'm gonna show you how I get my photos to look like this and in all the thumbnails you always see. Because I like to think I have pretty good photo options. It's one of the few things in Forza I've dumped a lot of time into figuring out and finding the best ones for me. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Now, for the most part, it's just gonna be me showing you my settings, and I'm gonna explain a few of them, but some of them I really just don't know what they do. And we're starting things off with your physical game settings. So over in settings over here, now I do want to clarify, if you are on console, just by default, you are already going to have lower quality images. It's just how it is because your graphic setting is not as in detail as you can see what I have here. On PC, there's all these different things you can adjust. You can move between high, ultra, extreme, custom graphics. There's a ton of options, but I think you only have the two on Xbox, so you are going to just have lower quality overall. But that being said, these preset options, extreme, ultra, this does affect the quality of your photo. So currently we're in high graphics. It's going to have this graphic quality just in our photo lens. So if you are wanting your most realistic photo settings, you're going to have to go into your actual settings and change it from high up to extreme. And you do have to restart your game every time you do this. I think that's incredibly annoying. But what I recommend is just restart your game with the settings, take your photo and then change it back. My computer really can't run extreme. I can't record while using extreme, so I don't use it very often. But if you want to keep it on high or whatever your settings are, these photo settings do help. So let's go ahead and dive into them. So the shutter speed, I change this intermittently. I don't use it a whole lot because this only affects if your car is moving on the road. So if it's at 100 right now, let's pick up a little bit of speed here, get ourselves moving. As you can see, the road is blurring past us. And if we were to change our shutter speed, it would make us look like we're going slower, or we can make it look like we're standing still if we move it all the way down. And this really just affects the outside area, but it's not responsible for blurring the background like you see there. Focus, I always leave this at 0. Exposure, I set this to about 50. This is how bright the image itself is actually going to be, and I find 50 works good for that, so you don't have to change that setting. Now the blurred background comes directly from the aperture. I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm butchering all this stuff. But if we were to do it all the way up to 100%, it just looks ridiculous. Its main focus, as you can see, is just on the car itself, and we probably have to zoom in quite a bit for it to look any sort of nice. Never go with 100. No one wants to see whatever's on the screen right now. But that being said, still fiddle with it and find an amount you like for you. For me, it's generally in the 20s to 30s is my go-to aperture, where you can see the whole car, even some of the road and surrounding areas, but the whole background is completely blurred out. Aperture is one of my favorite settings in the camera that not many people actually know about. It's kind of one of those ones where it sounds too fancy and people don't want to mess something up, so they just leave it at 0. Now, when you do turn it on, you do just have to make sure you're pressing your focus mode with this center point, what you want to focus at. So if I wanted to focus on the background there, look, car is blurry now, background is lit, or not lit, it's in focus. But if we want the car, focusing on the car, that's how that works. Very easy once you understand the basics. This shape, I've always kept it as circle, and sampling, you could set it to quality. I don't notice a difference. Maybe it's just me, maybe there is a difference. I've never noticed a difference with either of these settings. Maybe my computer's just not good enough. But for the most part, just leave them as, you could set it as circle and quality, sure, if you want to be the same as me. Now, these next settings are, again, you're going to have to fiddle with these a little. Contrast, don't go much above 50. Keep it between 50 and 60. That can really screw up your whole photo. Color is my other favorite setting in this whole thing. It pretty much makes the colors pop out more the higher you have it up. So as we turn it up, as you see, everything around us gets brighter and more colorful, but it can look too tacky if you do it too much. So I generally keep this between 60 and 70. If I want a lot of color, maybe I'll near 80, but I don't often do that. So between 60 and 70 is a sweet spot. And then brightness works pretty well with exposure. So keep it again in between 50 and 60. These settings I never really change because you don't have to. Once you have these all set up like that, it's only color and aperture you really have to fiddle with. And then obviously sepia, vignette, and just keep those at 0. It just screws everything up. And temperature, this is like how warm, like how many oranges and stuff are in the picture as opposed to like blues. So if you see, we go all the way to the left here, it's a much bluer image, but if we were to go all the way to the right, it's much oranger. So I keep this generally in the middle. I think the middle does a very good job, maybe even on the lower side, but like 49. This looks perfect to me. And now this setting wasn't in the game at launch. You didn't get to change what time of day it was. The 2 best times a day are early and late afternoon. Those are the ones I like the most. And I change it depending on where the shadow is cast on the car. If I'm taking the photo from the back, obviously I want the back of the car to be brighter. But say we're gonna go to the front here, I change it to late afternoon, and now we have the front of the car is visible and sunny as opposed to the back. And then weather, keep that clear. All these other options, I just don't really change them. Guidelines, keep that off. That's just gonna do weird stuff like this, which you really don't want. And then you can decide whether you want any of this stuff on. Now these options do become not changeable if you are in an event or a race while you're entering photo mode. So if you're wondering why can't I change any of this stuff, it's probably because you're in an event. But that's it. Those are the only settings I use, and I feel like I get some pretty high quality photos. Like look at this. How realistic does that look? That looks like an actual photo that somebody just up and took. And like you can also do it like this, where you focus that part of the car and then you can move the camera to have different aspects, and I don't know, play around with it, figure out what works best for you. But in my opinion, these are all the best settings, and you get a really high quality, realistic type photo, and that's it. If you guys enjoyed this and you learned something or this helped you, make sure to subscribe. As always, I'll see you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.